Hey friends, it's Awkwardly Random with Cinthya and Michelle, where we talk about random topics.
Anything and everything awkward is on the table, so let's dive right in.
Hello, y'all.
Hi.
Oh, that's different than my regular hey, y'all.
I know, right? Welcome back
Welcome back to another episode of Awkwardly Random
with Cinthya and Michelle.
Welcome back to another episode, y'all. If you are...
We know you missed us.
You be saying that all the time.
Well, we know. I have a feeling. I just know.
It's your feelings. Speaking of feelings, that's what we're going to be talking about today.
Yes.
That's a great segue. Except we need to break that segue real quick because we have to get to our awkwardly random question.
Yep.
But if y'all are joining us through the video portion of this episode, look at this, y'all. We're holding our microphones in our hands.
We're being a little fancy.
Yeah. And for those that are just joining through audio, that is totally fine. We are still holding our microphones in our hands. We thought this would be a little bit more laid back, a little more chill vibe. It feels different, but it's kind of cool. I like the change. So yeah, today we're going to be talking about emotions
and feelings.
But
it's going to be a good one.
It's going to be a good one. It's going to get deep as we usually do anyway. But let's do our awkwardly random question.
Okay.
So for today's awkwardly random question, are you ready for this?
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay. Do you like having some sound at all times of the day, or do you prefer silence?
Okay, I read this before we started recording, and I need some clarifications. If you know me, you know I like clarifications.
Okay.
By sounds, do you mean like just any type of noise, or like talking, or like music, or like just stuff like that in general?
So sound in general. So if you need to have music on, if you need to listen to a podcast, if you need to hear people talking, if you need to hear something other than your own thoughts in your head, basically. So that, or
this is hard.
Prefer
silence at all times? I can't. Not at all times.
So we'll interpret this question however you want, and answer however you want. It doesn't have to be a specific extreme one or the other.
Okay, so I think it depends for me on what I'm doing. Sometimes I really prefer silence.
When?
Either when I'm working or early in the morning. I don't know. I just love like a silent morning, like a start to my day. I don't know why. But then sometimes, like, once I wake up and get ready, and then once I'm like halfway getting ready, then I'll play like music or something, or I'll listen to a podcast. But right in the beginning of my day, I like it silent. And also when I sleep, it has to be freaking silent, or else I cannot sleep. That's just like me. And it has to be pitch dark in order for me to sleep. And then when I'm working and really concentrating, I need it to be silent, like no noise. And then also, that's pretty much it when I really need the silence. Early in the morning, when I fall asleep, and when I'm working or like trying to concentrate on something, then it has to be silent. Other than that, I'm good with noise. I'm good at blocking out noise, to be honest. But yeah, what about you?
Yeah, it depends for me too. I remember one time you told me that sometimes you like classical music when you're working, or no, or sometimes
I do.
You like...
Sometimes, sometimes.
Yeah.
When I feel like I'm like already in the zone, like I need to be in the zone. But when I actually am not concentrated yet or not focused yet, then I can't have anything in the back. Sure. But in terms of like if I'm working, the only type of music that I could listen to is classical because it doesn't have any words. It's more calming for me. But yeah.
Or like
what about you?
Stuff. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'm the same way. So my mornings, I typically as soon as I get up, I'll put on a podcast.
Like right as soon as you get up.
Well, like when I'm getting ready for the day. So I get up, whatever, I go to the bathroom, I brush my teeth, but while I'm doing everything I have to do in the bathroom, I'm playing a podcast in the background. When I'm doing work, I'm typically playing music.
Okay.
When I go on a walk or I'm outside or whatever by myself, I'm typically listening to a podcast or playing music. So I think I'm more of like I need some sort of sound, but I'm working towards being more comfortable with silence. I think what happens is I'm a very big overthinker, and when I'm sitting in silence, I race. My thoughts race, and I sometimes I can get overwhelmed with my own thoughts. But when it comes to sleeping, yes, I'm like you. I need quiet and I need darkness. Yeah. But
Nice.
sometimes like I've been having a hard time sleeping these past few nights, so I'll put on a podcast. It's called Sleep with Me. It sounds dirty, but that's not what it's about. Okay, y'all.
Sleep with me. What is it about?
It's this guy who talks in a very monotone, super boring ass voice. That's the whole point. And he rambles on about random shit that doesn't make sense, and it literally bores you to sleep. And it's great.
Wow,
It
I need to
works.
listen to that.
It totally
See if it
works.
works.
Yeah.
Okay.
It works for me at least. So
Yeah.
it's called Sleep with Me, and it's one of the top sleep podcasts. There are other ones obviously to help you sleep, and there's meditation stuff and like things like that. But if I can't sleep, I'll do that. But typically, I do need the silence. But I think there's a power in silence, and I need to be more comfortable with it. But anyway, that's interesting.
Interesting.
Let us know what y'all
Nice.
prefer.
Yeah, let us know.
Yeah, let us know. Let us know.
Comment below or comment on our Instagram post or just send us a message
Facebook.
too. Yeah.
Anything that works for y'all.
Cool.
Okay. Nice.
You have to like
let's regulate ourselves. Regulate yourself. Deep breath. Take a drink of water if you need to. Whatever you need to regulate yourself. We're about to be talking about emotions.
Emociones.
And feelings. Sentimientos. Right?
Sentimientos, yeah.
Emociones y sentimientos, right? Sentiments, feelings, whatever.
I think so,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so first of all, why are we even talking about this in the first place? Why do we care about emotions, Mish?
We care because we all have emotions. We all have feelings to some capacity. I know some people can't feel certain feelings. That's a different question, you know, but I think it's important because I think we all go through this. I think it's relatable. And I think also there's a lot of judgment and there can be stigma when it comes to emotions or expressing emotions. And I just think it's important to talk about. Obviously, we're not psychologists or like professionals in this. This is just, you know, what we think in our experiences and how we've like gone through emotions or expressed emotions and all that. So I feel like a lot of people can relate to this though. That's why we're talking about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very human trait to have feelings and emotions. And I think it's really important for us to be able to learn how to manage and process emotions, because that's something that we need to be able to effectively navigate relationships in our lives. So it's just so important in all aspects of life, but really like the social emotional skill that we develop from a young age, a lot of it stems from how do we feel, how do we emote, and then how do we process those things, right? So it's just important. It's important, and we're gonna talk about it.
Yep.
So should we maybe first, so Michelle and I typically prepare before this, right? And I'm like thinking out loud right now, should we maybe define emotions and feelings first?
Sure,
before going into the nitty gritty of the conversation?
Okay. Do you want to take a whack at it?
A whack?
So Midwestern. You want to take a whack at it?
A whack at it? Yeah, I could take a whack at it. So, well, first of all, do you think that emotions and feelings are different?
Yes.
Me too.
Do you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I actually did a little bit of research on this. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, no, go ahead. I did a little bit before we just started recording, so yeah. That's all I have, but you go first.
Okay, so we both did our research, y'all. Emotions are typically what happens within our body, right? So let's say, so they're hardwired in the brain, right? The amygdala, the emotion center of the brain. I think we learned this in like middle school or high school, like the different brain sections. I don't know. I remember learning about that, but anyway,
I don't remember.
I just remember knowing the amygdala is tied to emotions. So they're the instinctive, more universal feelings, like, so like when we are nervous or we have fear, right? Or let's say And as an example, you are about to give a speech in front of a large crowd, or you're about to go on a first date. Like, at least for me, that those things make me feel nervous. But what happens is physiologically my heart rate increases, or sometimes I'll sweat, or I'll have a hard time kind of breathing and catching my breath because I'm just so nervous. So like my body is physically reacting to this situation. I'm emoting, right? These are things that are in motion in my body. And then the feelings part, I think, is how you interpret those emotions. So then I would label it as I'm feeling nervous, I'm feeling scared, right? But these are labels that we get from our social conditioning. Like, we are taught to label these feelings as this. So emotions are like either good or bad, but they're neutral. They don't have like the feelings are the things that we interpret. And label,
and they're more specific.
Yes, more specific.
Like enthusiasm, or like disappointed and stuff like that. Like it's our interpretation of it. But I agree.
Our interpretation. So that's kind of the main distinction that I've learned about between the two.
Same. Yeah, that's my understanding of it too.
Okay. So hopefully we gave some helpful information on how do we distinguish the two. So Mish, you did. Well, we both clarified it. Do you feel like you're an emotional person? And I'm even trying to figure out what that question means, right? Like, if you're an emotional person, because like I said, these are universal innate things in us. So in a sense, we're all emotional.
Yeah. That's what I was when we were preparing, and when I was thinking about like these questions and the answers to them, because we all have, as humans, emotions, and our bodies react to these emotions like inevitably. I think we're all emotional. I don't think that many people would actually admit it,
Right.
I would say definitely when I was younger, I wouldn't have said, oh, I'm an emotional person, because I think that there is like the stigma or a judgment to someone who is emotional or like more in tuned with their emotions. So I guess when I was younger, I didn't really understand some of my emotions or my feelings. But now as I get older, as I'm older as an adult and have been able to like process things, I would say that I am emotional because I feel things. I think it's normal. So I would say, What about you?
Yeah, I think there's so that question, a lot of people I think perceive it, and this is how I perceived it too when I was younger. When you are considered an emotional person, quote unquote, it means that you cry a lot, or you complain a lot, or you are upset all the time, or you're sensitive. That's a big one, right? So that's what I think you're right, there's that stigma. And after learning about what emotions really are and where they come from and how we experience them, and that it's very human, yes, I agree, we are all emotional. And I don't see the term emotional as like you're just too sensitive, you worry too much. I've been told that before.
Oh my gosh.
Not that I'm an emotional person, but that I worry too much, or that I overthink too much, or whatever. Like, it almost feels like something's wrong with me. But this has been reassuring to learn about emotions, because now I'm like, well, this is a human thing. Like,
we all have them. It's just like whether you express them or not. It's
right. And
it's a thing.
And so like, in terms of how we express them, who do we express them to? How do we express them? What types of emotions we can express? Like, we learn all of that through our lived experiences, through our social conditioning, through how we navigate life, like our life experiences. And I think culturally too, right? So you and I, Michelle, come from the Mexican culture. There's been a lot of conversation around emotional expression and display within the Mexican culture.
Oh yeah.
And a lot of it is tied to the machista culture. But we can
let's get into it later. Let's just get into that.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to ask you, so I want to dig into our childhoods a little bit.
Okay.
With our emociones.
All right, let's do it.
I said emociones. Wow. Okay. Anyway. So
Okay.
who did you, let's lay the groundwork. Who did you, or the picture, who did you grow up with?
I grew up with my mom, my grandma, and my sisters.
Okay.
And my uncle.
Okay.
Who we all lived in the same household, and my cousin, who I consider her like a sister because we all lived together in one house.
Okay. And through those experiences with those people that you grew up with, how did you learn about emotions? Were you able to express them safely, freely? Did you feel like you could? Did you go to someone in particular to express or talk about them? Was it modeled, not modeled? Give us the info.
This is deep.
I know, this
Okay,
is
so
deep.
let me try to think about it. Okay, so when I was younger, I experienced a lot. I think if you've heard some of the episodes, you would know like my background and what I went through. Obviously my parents split when I was really young. They didn't have the great like very healthy relationship, and I was able to experience some of that with my sisters. So obviously I had emotions, but I didn't know how to express them. And I never, like, no one ever said, oh, you can't cry, you can't express these. Like, no one ever said that. But it's just how I saw people act,
right,
where they would express some of these emotions, like sadness or anger or like happiness, are the ones that you pick up on as a child. And facial expressions are like people's tone of voice and all these other things. That's how I remember seeing it. But at the same time, I think it's hard, especially when you come from an immigrant, like an immigrant family who, and my mom, became a single mom, and seeing her go through her experiences, like people, and I would always say, my mom is so strong, and I did think my mom was so strong, but I also saw my mom express her emotions.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? In all different capacities, from like sadness, anger to joy and all these other things. So I saw it expressed, but at the same time, like, because I was raised by what I saw as strong, it allowed me to also allow me to express certain emotions, but it wasn't easy. You know what I mean? I feel like when we grow up in like a very hardworking family, and like you need to do this and you need to do that and you have to keep going and like all these other things, like you kind of push aside those emotions in a way in order to like get the job done. I don't know if I'm making any sense, but that's how I felt when I was younger. And I didn't really talk about my emotions, like especially with my sisters. Like we went through a lot of similar things growing up, and it was very hard for us, but we never really talked about our emotions. Like we expressed them, but like I didn't actually like acknowledge them and like talk about them with anybody. And that's what I'm thinking about. Yeah, I think that was it. And yeah, I never had anybody tell me like not to express them. I was always I wasn't encouraged, but I also wasn't like, no, you can't cry, you can't like be angry or all these things. But part of it, what I'm thinking about is also like, when I grew up, also when you grow up through like things that really affect you emotionally, I also learned that that's different than like your actions and your behavior. You know what I mean? So like, just because I was going through something that really affected me, that didn't really give me the right to lash out at like my sisters if I was mad. Like, you know what I mean? Like some certain people use their emotions to like, how do you say it? Like put it on somebody else.
Right.
Like I don't know what it's called.
Like emotions can influence behavior is what you're saying.
Yes. Yeah. Emotions can influence behavior, but I learned at a young age that just because I'm like, I feel really bad or like I'm angry or something, like that doesn't give me the right to take it out on somebody else. And that's what I learned when I was younger, when I felt certain emotions or certain feelings because of what I was going through when I was a child.
Yeah.
So that helped me have some insight. But at the same time, I never really talked about my emotions to anybody until later in life, where I was able to process them better. Because when I was a child, I was just like, all this shit is happening to me, and like, I don't know how to react.
Right.
But yeah, what about you? Who did you grow up with? First question.
Who did I grow up with? I grew up with my parents, my mom and my dad, my younger sister, and my younger brother, who is 11 years younger than I am. So there's a big age gap, which will play a role into this conversation. So I just wanted to put that out there. But what was the next part of it? Expressing emotions, right?
Mm-hmm. Like, who, did you see that model? Did you see them express it? Do you see like who you grew up with? Did they express it? Did they talk about their emotions or feelings?
Yeah.
How did you feel? Like,
yeah.
Did you feel safe to express your emotions or any of that?
Okay, so I saw them express emotion, but I saw them express usually happiness, joy. I saw my mom express sadness, and in my dad, I saw him express joy and anger. There wasn't really much in between there that I that I at least processed or perceived. Right, I just remember seeing those main ones, and they never told me, no, you can't express emotion, no, you can't talk about your feelings, no, you can't come to me or anything, right? But they also never explicitly said, hey, how are you or asked me, hey, how are you feeling in terms of emotions, right? I mean, they've asked me like, how are you feeling in terms of like physical, right? Are you sick?
How are you? Like, how are you?
Yeah, how are you doing?
Or like, how was school or stuff like that?
Yeah. But if they ask me how are you feeling, they're asking me about if I'm feeling sick.
You're feeling.
Not actually how I'm feeling emotionally, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I'm not bashing family in any way or saying that that's a bad thing. I'm just saying that's what I grew up with, and I think it's part of how they grew up. Emotions aren't really, at least within my family, aren't super talked about as much and as openly. And my brother, I've been trying to help him understand that he can express his emotions, he can cry, he can be sad, he can show vulnerability. It doesn't make him any less of a quote unquote man, right? Because he's been given some messaging, that I personally don't agree with from various family members and the culture and society, that men don't cry, men don't express emotion. And typically that stems from, if you show emotion, you're weak. And we can't be weak. We can't afford to be weak.
Yeah. I feel that.
You were going to say something?
Yeah, that's what I meant when I was saying that, like, I grew up with a strong mother, and that's what I perceived as strong. And tying back into like growing up with my grandma, like the majority of us were women. So I didn't grow up with that machismo culture in my family, but I grew up with, this is what, because my grandma, like she went through a lot, you know what I mean? She also immigrated from Mexico, also a single mother, owned her own business, like took care of her animals and like all this other stuff. So she was and I've never seen my grandma cry, like ever in my life.
Wow.
Ever. Never seen her cry. I mean, you know what I mean?
But why do you think that is? Why do you
I don't know. I think that's just how my grandma is. I mean, I've seen other, like how I said with my mom, I've seen my mom express a range of emotions. So specifically with my grandma, I've never seen her cry. And in general, she's just a stoic person.
Right.
But that's just something that I interpreted as a child. Like, this is what strong means. Obviously very wrong, because that's not true. I think vulnerability and being able to like feel your emotions and express them is also very strong. But growing up and seeing that, that's what I had like connected in my head when I was younger.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Exactly. I mean, it's a prime example of, we are influenced by what we see and what we are modeled and what we experience. And so like that's what I've been trying to kind of dismantle with my brother and with the men in my life. And it's really cool to see how my brother is totally opposite of what would be expected typically societally, right? And the norms. He's like 10 times more affectionate than I am. He's always hugging. He's always saying, I love you. He's always like, when are you coming home? Like, when are you coming to visit? I miss you. He shows his love and his care. I've seen him cry, you know, and like, yeah, I've seen him express all sorts of emotions, and it's been really, really cool to see that he feels safe enough to do that. And and I mean, I don't know, right? I would want to talk to him about this, but it appears to me that he's okay with that. You know, it's not like he feels any less of a man or any like, or feels weak or anything, right? Like,
yeah, we need to throw those out.
Yeah,
as a society and culturally.
Yeah, we really do. So that's been really cool. However, in terms of, on the other hand, how I express emotion.
For real, I was gonna say.
Oh my god, that's a whole other story, y'all. I don't really. Okay, so I've gotten more comfortable talking about my feelings, and a big part of it, like I remember you telling me, I have anxiety. I feel anxious about this and this and this. And I was like, oh, wait, you can talk about what you're feeling and not break down as you're talking about it, you know?
Yeah.
Like, so, because I always had this fear that if I talked about it, I was just gonna cry, like cry my eyes out in front of this person, and I was gonna make them feel uncomfortable, and then it's just gonna be an awkward situation. And yeah, so I just didn't really like to. But again, it's because it was what I learned. I learned that when you express all this emotion, it's a problem. You're emotional. You're too sensitive. Something's wrong with you. You're weak. All these things that we're taught as we're growing up and learning.
Yeah, and I definitely felt that too, to be honest.
Yeah. And so I've been trying to unlearn that. But also part of it, I think it's just who I am, Mish. I think I'm like similar to your grandma, where you've seen me cry, but I think maybe I think you can count in one hand.
Probably I feel like I've seen you like cry 3 times.
Yeah.
But I've never seen my grandma cry. Like never.
Yeah.
Ever in my life.
Yeah. That's so interesting. Some people just don't cry.
They're just
she cries, but just not in front of people. I don't know. That's typically how I am. I feel more. It depends. Like, I feel safe enough to cry in front of you. I feel safe enough to cry in front of my mom. You know, but with other people, it's just it can be uncomfortable for me. So I do cry. I'm not a full-on robot, maybe just like 50% robot, but you know, I'll cry in my room and let out whatever feelings I have. But I think that's just part of also just my temperament. Like, that's just how I am.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I know.
So yeah, I wanted to ask you, what was your shift when you said, like, in the beginning, this is how you perceived emotions, this is how you saw this and that, but then you had a shift. And now you process them more. It's a different experience for you now that you're older.
Yeah.
What factored into that shift?
Oh my goodness. Okay. So yeah, when I was younger, I literally never really cried. I mean, I was in terms of like being in tune with like my emotion, I really wasn't. I really suppressed a lot of my emotions too.
Yeah.
But I think and no one ever like suppressed them for me. I think I just interpret it, like you said, you know, if you're, you know, strong people don't really exhibit these emotions. So I just was very serious and all these other things. But I realized I had the shift when I was in college, and I was going through a really rough patch with my dad. And then I also was going through a breakup in college. And I was this really good friend of mine who was in this organization in Mecha saw me, and he saw that like something was bothering me, and you know, I explained what was going on, and I was like, oh, but I'm okay, I'm fine, like you know what I mean? And he's like
brushing it off.
Yeah. And they were like it's okay to feel sad. Like it's like no one has ever really said that to me ever in my life. He was like, they were like, it's okay to feel sad. It's okay to feel whatever you're feeling.
Wow.
And then I was like, oh my gosh, like that is so validating. Like, and it was so freeing to like allow myself to feel that. That's why I feel like there is a lot of judgment when it comes to like crying, or like especially more with crying, because I feel like that's when people see somebody cry, they're like, oh, what's wrong? Like they think it's like that, like really bad. But I learned to like, it's not bad for me, because after like a good cry and I let myself feel that, then I feel so much better afterwards. And because I'm like allowing myself to acknowledge those feelings, it also allows me to work through it and then easily let it go. And that's what I learned about like processing my emotions. And that's why I felt like it was so powerful and so freeing, because I feel like I grew as a person, being able to like acknowledge it for myself and then grow from that. You know what I mean? And I feel like it's made me a stronger person in general, going through all types of emotions. So yeah, I think that's where like the like switch, or like mind frame, like kind of switch for me, was then starting then. And then just like whenever I feel something, giving myself the space to do it. Obviously there's like a time and a place for certain things. I'm not going to be crying like everywhere and all the time in front of anyone. I feel like if you don't know me super closely, you wouldn't know any of this, you know what I mean? Especially like when I'm at work or doing certain things. Like I'm a very serious person. I'm very put together. Like I like to get my shit done. But if you do know me personally, like Beans or like Jesus, you really do know that like I'm in tune with my emotions. I like to feel my emotions. I like to express my emotions. That's just how I am, you know?
That's so interesting. I'm more of like, I'm like more like giddy and out there with happy emotions. I feel like more so than you are.
Yeah.
And yet I feel like I'm not trying to compare, but I almost feel like I'm still working to get at that level that you're at, where you're a little bit more attuned with your emotions. And I'm still trying to figure out how to process and let go. But it's a very different, it's a contrast. And so it's just interesting. Like as you described that, I'm like, wow, I'm like the complete opposite of you. You know?
Yeah.
It's so interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
We finally have differences.
There we go.
On our podcast.
We have some differences, although we still agree on.
No, yeah, we do. Yeah.
We got to find something we disagree on, Michelle.
Yeah.
I was going to share, I didn't have like a specific moment where everything just clicked for me. And I still think, I'm still a work in progress.
I'm still working on it too, for sure.
Yeah, still working on it. But I just think it's also so interesting that, so my line of work is saturated, Michelle, saturated with the philosophy and ideology and belief that we need to feel, we need to express, we need to validate our emotions to continue growing and learning and developing as human beings. You know, that's like, I work with families that have really big emotions, because yes, these kiddos that I work with have some sort of delay with their development, have some sort of problem that we're working to support them in, right? So yes, they have a lot of emotions, and I have to hold space for them, or hold their feelings for that hour that I'm there. And I have to validate, and I'm like, it's okay. This must be a lot what you're feeling. You have a lot. That's a lot to carry, knowing that your child has autism maybe, or, you know, is nonverbal, and it's really hard for you to get to build a relationship because maybe there's not the communication, or I don't know, whatever X, Y, and Z reason. But I have to constantly remind myself to do that for me. You know, I'm like, I don't check on myself as much as like I check on other people, and I'm like, it's okay to feel sad, Michelle. It's okay to cry.
I know, yeah. But then, you're like, so nice to me about my feelings. I don't extend that
grace to myself, you know, and it's just so interesting that that's what, you know, it's just when it's you experiencing it, it's like a different story.
Yeah, so, I think it's a lot harder.
Yeah.
I think in general for like a lot of people, it's just harder to extend, like you said, extend grace to yourself, and also just like allowing yourself to feel your emotions without any
Yes.
judgment, because I feel like it is from judgment. It is what we've been taught, and learning that it can be difficult, but I think it's so important to do that, because then, you know, you're cutting off, if you're not giving yourself the space or the time to do it, you're really cutting off
Right.
yourself and like your like you and your like you being as a human, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and you being yourself. Like this is
yeah.
I was just listening to a podcast that talked about how our deepest fears as humans are two things: fear of death and fear of abandonment. And the abandonment branches into, we don't want to be the outcast, we don't want to be judged, we don't want to be rejected. Right? That's a deep fear of us as a human. It's a human thing that we fear. And so in a sense, and this is how they described it, as you're performing life versus actually living life.
Yeah.
I was like, mind blown, because it's so true. Sometimes I have found myself like suppressing my own emotions, my own internal knowing and being, to not discomfort the other person, or, you know, not put them in an awkward situation, or not put anything on, like putting things on them, you know what I'm saying? And so like and then what happens is you're the one that ends up suffering the most, because you're hiding this inner feeling, and then it can manifest into other really problematic things and behaviors and emotions.
I feel that.
Yeah, I don't know. Over time, I've learned and I've seen the power of validating and expressing and holding space for yourself and for others. And I do it for my job. So I see it firsthand all the time. And I'm working to do that for me. But I don't think it's just like one click and one overnight thing. For me, it's like a continued journey and work in progress. But it's just, yeah, I find this stuff so fascinating.
Yeah, so do I. That's interesting, because like in your work, you do have to like validate people's feelings.
You do too.
You know? Yeah, in my work, certain things, certain not. Like obviously, when you're in court, like people don't really want, like the way that I in school and when we you know practice on all these things, like you can't really show emotion, especially when it comes to court, especially when you're doing all these things. But it's different when I'm working with specific clients who are either going through situations of really terrible abuse or domestic violence. Then definitely I will validate feelings there. I'm not a psychologist, so that's not like really my job and place to like do that. But I do try to be there for the client as best as I can. But in general, the legal field, I don't think that we do a very good job in validating emotions or even mental health if we go a little bit deeper into it. So I think the legal field in general has a lot to learn and a lot to grow from, especially when it comes to mental health. But yeah, just side note.
Yeah. Wow. We do very different things, but there are some parallels there.
There are some parallels, yeah.
You know, we're serving families and communities, and in a sense, I like, to an extent, you are validating and you're holding space for people. Like when you ask them to explain to you certain experiences that they've had, you're holding space for them. And so, and that can weigh a lot on the person who's holding that space, or who's holding those feelings for that moment that the other person is sharing their experiences. So
I need to go to a therapist. Side note, I've been saying that for like the past year or so, but I really need to do it. I'm gonna do it.
That's another thing too that's been helping me, is therapy. I don't see my therapist every week because of scheduling conflicts, but whenever I do, like that 1 hour is just like it's a release. It's a release, and it's really validating, and I feel seen, I feel heard, I feel validated, you know, and then I'm able to process things a little bit more with a more clear head. And it's just helped me continue to grow and manage my feelings so that I'm not suppressing them, repressing them, and taking them out on other people.
So how has your emotion display changed over time? I know you said that you're working on it. There wasn't really like a big switch moment, but like how has it changed from then to now?
So now I am able to process them a little bit better, and therefore make sense of them, and therefore talk about them. you know? So I feel more, is mature the right word? I feel more attuned, more mature,
Mm-hmm.
more understanding of the why. I ask myself, why am I feeling this way? Why am I acting this way? Oh, it's because
Mm-hmm.
I'm feeling this. Why am I feeling this? Oh, because of this and this. What can I
Mm-hmm.
do about it? Okay, I can do this.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm much more, I take my time more to really sit with it versus like and sit with the discomfort, because
Mm-hmm.
it can be really uncomfortable to sit with your feelings and your emotions. Um,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and then I'm able to express them a little bit better. If that
Mm-hmm.
I think, did that answer the question?
Yeah, it did. It did.
Okay.
Are you now? I know you said you didn't really talk about it with your you said Eric is very like is in tune with his emotions. He's like
Mhm.
expressive with them. Do
Mhm.
you talk about your emotions now with your family? Is that a thing now?
Yeah,
Um
a little bit more. It's not as much, honestly, but more than before.
mm-hmm.
Um Now it's more like me initiating. How are you feeling
Mm-hmm.
about this? And before I probably wouldn't have asked. And then
Mm-hmm.
we get into that back and forth, and then that space opens
Mm-hmm.
up for that conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But
Cool.
what about you, Michelle? What does your emotion display look like right now?
Emotion display looks like? I mean, like I said, I feel like for me, there's a time and a place where I allow myself to express my emotions,
Yeah.
depending on the situation, depending on who I'm with. Like I said, I feel more like comfortable sharing or expressing my emotions with people that I'm really close to.
Yeah.
Um, but if you're not really close to me, not really. I don't know
Yeah.
why. That's just how I am.
Yeah.
Um, so that would be it. So in terms like with my family, I'm super open with them about like my emotions or how I'm feeling, and they're super open with me too, like me with my mom, me with my
Mhm.
sisters. I talk about things like, oh, like this is making me nervous, or like I'm nervous about this, or like I'm
Yep.
happy about this, I'm disappointed because of this, and all these other things. So I feel super comfortable talking with people close to me. um but yeah, not so much in other settings where I don't really know people. So I think that's just kind of normal. And I don't know if that's normal to be honest, but that's just what I do.
Yeah.
Um,
That
but
is.
yeah, but then I feel like sometimes I've seen this on social media. I don't know if it's just me, but in their 20s, I feel like people are like, I saw this meme today where it was like, um why am I crying, or like crying, but they're like, it's okay, it's okay. I forgot what it was called,
Hmm.
but I feel like sometimes we don't know why we feel certain things, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
And I feel like your body, especially emotions, the physiological part of it, like
Right.
sometimes you just cry and you don't know why. And that's your body telling you that like you're feeling something, you're
Right.
having a certain emotion.
Right.
And that's another way of your body telling you like something is happening, and you need to kind of acknowledge it. So
Yeah.
sometimes that just happens too. I don't know. But I think that yeah, I feel like now as an adult, I'm more comfortable expressing it with certain people than I used to when I was younger. And yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I'm pretty open with how I feel. Um, I'm not really afraid to talk about it in terms of like my range of emotions. I feel like people just know. But at the same time, because I feel like I can acknowledge my emotions, I also am able to control my reactions to certain things. You know what I mean? Like I'm able to
Mhm.
have conversations about my emotions
Yeah.
without like necessarily lashing out on somebody, because I think that like that's problematic. So the fact that I can like acknowledge those feelings, I'm able to better talk about them and better able to work through them and better able to let them go.
Mm. So, can you can you control your emotions, or is it that you can control how you express, or you how you respond to those emotions?
Yeah, the latter. So I feel like I don't know. I don't know if you can control emotions. I can't control my emotions. Like my body will do whatever it has to do, but I
Right.
can definitely control like my behavior or how I express my emotions or like, you know, when I was younger, I was more reactive to
Yeah.
like certain things. Like
Yeah.
I can easily have a response or like I'd be angry or I'd be sad or, you know,
Right.
like right away and I would act on those. But now as
Right.
an adult, I'm able to like, okay, this is what I'm feeling, like think about it, what do you want to do, what do you want
Yeah.
to say, and then that's because I'm able to do that, I can then figure out how I'm gonna act or behave.
Right.
And it
So,
wasn't always easy. I feel like we all go through this
oh
process of
yeah.
like filling out our emotions and figuring out how to respond.
So so you're learning to respond versus react. Is that
Yes.
what's happening? But you can't,
Yeah.
but you're not controlling the emotion itself necessarily or what's happening to your body, but let's say so let's give like like a specific example to make more sense of this.
Like for
Let's say,
example,
yep, go ahead.
okay, so in law school you have to like do public speaking. I mean,
Yep.
not always, but
Yeah.
like I wanted to be able to do more public speaking. I'm still
Yeah.
not very good at it. I don't know how I win an award for like giving the best closing argument, but it happened. But I am
Yes,
the type of
Mish.
person where like I get anxious when I and really nervous and I stutter in general.
Mm,
So public speaking, the more that I did it, obviously I'm still going to be nervous. My voice is going to be kind of shaky. I'm going to be sweating. I'm going to be like, my heart's going to be racing. But the more I did it, the better I can learn how to react or respond or control like my behaviors, not necessarily
right.
control the emotion because I'm still going to be feeling like sweaty
Nervous and
hands, nervous, and all
anxious.
these other things, but
Yeah.
I can better get my body used to being in that uncomfortable state and being used to, um, figuring out how I'm going to respond in that way when I'm in that setting.
Yeah.
So that would be an example.
Yeah. I think about when I'm going into a home visit knowing that we're about to have a really hard conversation and my
Mm-hmm.
heart's pounding while I'm sitting in the car, about to get out of the car to get in to go into the home, right? Um, my heart's racing. Sometimes I'll feel myself kind of shake a little bit because I'm so nervous to go into the home and have this conversation, right? Um, so what I do, and sometimes my breath is like really fast and short. And
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
so what I do is I focus on my breath and I'll inhale, count to, I don't know, 4 or 5. But then on the exhale, and I learned this from another podcast, when you exhale, you slow it down a little bit more so that you're really forcing yourself to slow down.
Mm-hmm.
Once you slow down, then you can really reflect on, okay, what am I feeling? Why am I nervous?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm going to go in there and just be as present as I can. And that's all I can do, right? Be present, hold space. And that's kind of it. But there I'm controlling my behavior versus, oh my God, I'm so nervous. I'm so nervous. And then I'm going to be jittery and I'm not going to make sense when I talk to the family. And I'm going to be speaking really fast like this. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to overwhelm them with how I'm
Mm-hmm.
presenting myself to them. Right. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I think you can control your behavior. I think you can manage maybe the emotion a little bit, but it's
Mm-hmm.
still going to be there. I'm still going to be nervous to have that conversation. I'm going to be nervous in the moment as we're
Mm-hmm.
talking. That doesn't really go away. In general, I'm an anxious person anyway. So
Mm-hmm.
hard conversations make me uncomfortable,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm learning to manage how to sit with that discomfort. And
Yeah.
because that's not going to really go away, but you can
Yeah.
find ways to help you get through it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's a work in progress, but that's one example that I thought about.
Yeah, I feel that. I
Wow, we
feel
agree
that.
on that again.
We do. We do. I mean, I think emotions are inevitable, you know what I mean? And I
Yeah,
think that it's normal and I feel like it's part of being human, you know?
we're human, y'all. We're human.
Okay, I just want to ask because we have
Okay.
some time. What do you think about when someone says they're sensitive? Or has anybody ever called you sensitive? Or have you called anybody sensitive? And what do you think that means?
I probably have called somebody sensitive, but probably when I was a lot younger and didn't
Mm-hmm.
and was very ignorant on a lot of on this topic.
Mm-hmm.
I've been told that I worry too much. That's what I've been told. I remember that very specifically. I've been told that I worry too much.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. Okay. I don't remember being told that I'm too sensitive or that I'm too emotional or something like that. But when
Yeah, I've
I
never been called that either.
yeah, and to this day I don't remember a time when I specifically said something like that to somebody, and I wouldn't. Now, right now in this current moment, I would never tell someone or would never actively try to tell somebody you're too emotional right now. Like,
Yeah, and
no.
don't tell anybody that if
Don't
you're
be saying that to
listening.
nobody. Please,
Don't be an
no.
asshole.
Yeah. So I'm all about validating emotion.
Yeah.
But yes, I've been told that and it felt invalidating.
Mm-hmm.
And I almost felt like, wait, do I? Like, is something's wrong with
Do
me,
you what?
maybe? Like, do I worry too much?
Oh,
You know? Sorry, I'm
nah.
all over the place. But
No worries.
when they told me that, I was like, wait, hold, like I almost believed it, you know? Like you
Mm-hmm.
start to internalize that shit that people tell you. And then you're
Mm-hmm.
like, shit, like maybe I shouldn't be sharing these things because people are gonna think I'm too sensitive or too emotional. And then again, you go back to the repressing your feelings.
Yeah. I'm like, yeah, I worry. That's just how I am. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Or like
Yeah.
sometimes I'm not worried and that's okay too.
Yeah. So this moment was in relation to the pandemic, and I was like, wait,
Mm.
how can you worry too much when we're in the middle of a pandemic and people are
And people are
dying?
dying.
You know,
Assholes.
so it's just hard. It's hard to hear that, and it's hard to hear that from someone you consider a friend. And I mean, I consider them a friend and I care about them a lot. And so I don't try to hold that against people. But at the same time, I'm going to do my best to stand up for myself. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that can be really invalidating, you know, when you say that. So, and then, just
Mm-hmm.
have a conversation with the person, but just don't say that. Don't say that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If you don't have anything to say, then just don't say anything and just say,
Don't say anything.
like just sit.
I
Sometimes
just feel like
just
certain people
listen.
I just feel like certain people either don't know how to express their emotions or allow themselves to feel their emotions, and then also don't even know how to respond to someone who is expressing emotion
Mm,
because they're just so out of touch with all of that. And I
mhm.
feel like, especially people use the words emotions and feelings interchangeably when they're not the same thing,
Right. Right.
too. So I just feel like a lot of people run away from emotions and feelings and would just rather not talk about them or not allow themselves to feel.
Yeah, because it's
Or yeah.
uncomfortable and we don't like being
Mm-hmm.
uncomfortable.
Yeah. Wow.
I know.
So do you
I know.
feel?
Sometimes. Just
Yeah,
kidding.
I know.
Yes,
I
I
feel
do
like
feel.
you it's just so I think going back to what we were talking about, how like you are just such a very like happy person. Like like out of all the emotions that I've
Yeah.
seen you express, I think I've seen you most express happiness and joy, which is really
Mhm.
great.
Mhm. Yeah, and
But
but let's not
I've
confuse
never really
that.
seen you,
Yeah.
but I've well, that's just what I've seen you express. I don't know
Yeah,
what you
yeah.
actually like feel and your emotions, but that's what I've seen you express. I've never really
Yeah.
seen you express like anger or sadness, really. It's only
Yeah.
been joy.
Okay.
And then
Yeah.
like you've expressed feelings of like anxiety and all these other things, but in general, like from the time I've always known you, it's always the majority has been joy, which is good
Yeah.
on my part
No,
and
no,
everybody else.
no, it's good, but I just wanted to clarify, let's not confuse that with toxic positivity. I'm not one to stop you from saying that you feel sad or like
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, like I'm trying really hard to not be the overtly positive person who's like you need to be happy all the time. No. No.
And I'm the
But
opposite.
yeah, no, no, no. It's just it's no, you're not. We have a range of emotions, but
Yeah.
I feel I genuinely cuz okay, so like when we hang out, obviously I'm happy, you know? I feel joy
Yeah,
when we
true.
hang out. We don't really argue or have negative
Don't really
emotions
argue.
towards
What
each
does that mean?
other. Like we just when we hang out, it's usually a
I
good
know. I'm
time.
just
Like,
kidding. Yeah. I'm
you know,
kidding.
you're so funny. I was like, me, you know what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about. I'm just trying to lighten up
Oh,
the mood.
I have another question. I know we're
Okay.
running out of time and we probably over our time, but is there an emotion that
Okay.
is most uncomfortable for you? Like one that like
Sorry, you cut off. Can you repeat it?
yeah, is there an emotion
Can
that's
you repeat your
most
question? You cut off.
yeah, is there an emotion that's most uncomfortable for you? Like for me it's feeling guilt.
Mm,
Guilt is it's so hard for me to process guilt. And I think it's because I have a lot of empathy
yeah.
and I just don't like disappointing or making people feel bad in any way that if I hurt your feelings, I'm like beating myself up for it, you know, and I feel this guilt and it eats up at me and just guilt is so hard for me, you know?
So what do you do when you feel guilty?
Um what do I do? I apologize a lot.
Mm,
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I don't know. I
mhm.
try to work it out. And but sometimes even though the person would be like, "Oh, like it's cool. Like I appreciate you apologizing, whatever, you know, I'm still feeling bad about it."
Yeah, but what do you do to feel like for someone to, yeah, that's
Well,
interesting.
like if I say something that just didn't sit well, or like if I had to cancel on somebody and they were looking forward to
Oh,
hanging out, like it's not like huge things, but still, it
okay.
still can
But
be
things like that.
disappointing, right?
Yeah.
Things like
I feel
that. I'm
that.
like, oh, I really disappointed this person. I feel so bad.
Yeah, I feel that. I think for me, it's not about how I make others feel, but it's how I make myself feel. I feel like
Okay,
when we talk
that's
about
huge.
how we're our worst critic, I am my worst critic. Like I am so hard on myself
Mm-hmm.
that all like so many people around me are so like loving and encouraging and like I have so much support, but I'm the one that like makes myself feel certain things. I don't know why, but the most uncomfortable feeling that I do put on myself, I feel, is like disappointment slash like
Disappointment.
failure.
Mm,
But it's not placed on me. I feel like I place it on myself. And I
yeah.
don't know why I do that. Maybe I should go to therapy.
Well, I think everybody could benefit from
I
therapy.
know.
But I think you and
Yeah.
I are similar. I think what I said and what you said is similar because the guilt I think that I have stems from me somehow unconsciously thinking that I'm the bad person, that something's wrong
Mm,
with me, that I had to do something to hurt you. You know what I'm saying?
mm-hmm.
It
Mm-hmm.
kind of it
Yeah.
boils
That's why
down
I
to that.
asked. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think in
Mm-hmm.
a way we both have that we're both self-critics.
I
Um
know.
and
Yeah.
it's
I'm
really
sure.
hard to not do that.
Yeah. And I'm sure if you're listening, you're a hard critic of yourself too. So just be nice to yourself. Be nicer to yourself.
Yes. Be nicer to
Mm-hmm.
yourself, extend grace to yourself, let yourself feel, even if it's just by
Mm-hmm.
yourself. If you don't want to talk to anybody,
Yeah.
that's okay. We're not saying you have to share your emotions with people,
Oh
but
no. Yeah.
the most important thing is that you acknowledge them, that you accept them so that you're able to let them go.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so I think that for me that's like the biggest takeaway from this
Yeah.
conversation. But yeah,
Yeah.
let us know y'all what y'all think of this conversation. How do you express emotions? How were you taught to express emotions and
Mm-hmm.
feelings?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is deep, y'all.
This is deep. This is so deep.
But
Yeah,
I
this was
love
a good
this.
conversation.
I
This
thought
was
this was a
nice. I like talking about this.
me too. I thought this was
Um,
great.
I was gonna instead of when you were like, "Do you think you're an emotional person?" I was gonna ask you if you thought I was an emotional person.
I
Like I
think you
was gonna
are.
flip the switch.
Yeah. I think you are an emotional person
Okay.
because you feel emotions.
I mean, obviously, yeah, I was gonna say the same thing about you, but I think
Exactly.
you express them differently. I think we all express them differently.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I agree. Okay, y'all. that was it for today. There's so much more
it?
we can get into when it comes to this topic, but I think we got to take it a little bit of time because this is a lot.
We have so much to talk about it, but yeah.
Yeah, we do. But that was it. That was it for today.
I hope I made sense with everything that I said. Just an FYI.
I mean, I got what you were saying.
Did it make sense?
Hopefully others did. If not, ask questions. Also, that's another thing. Like, if there's something that didn't make sense that we explained or something that you disagreed with, like, it's totally
if we're wrong.
You don't have to fully agree or fully understand everything we say.
Now people are going to call me sensitive.
Oh my God.
I'm just kidding.
Like, you're an emotional person.
Would you say I'm sensitive? Would you classify yourself as sensitive? Because I think it's different.
Yeah, I'm sensitive to things, but I'm not. So that's different. I don't know. I don't know. I don't think there's such thing as being too sensitive.
Yeah.
I think we are all sensitive to certain things.
Yes.
We all
that's what I was gonna say.
We all have our triggers. We all have our push points, our thresholds.
Yes. That's what I was trying to. Yeah, that's what I was coming at.
Yeah.
That's why I was asking. I definitely think that we all have, like you said, triggers or like sensitive to certain things or certain topics or like in general. I think that we all can be to a certain extent.
Yeah, like there could be something that you'd be a little bit more sensitive to that I wouldn't, and vice versa. There'd be something that triggers me a little bit more that to you wouldn't be such a big deal, you know. And so but that's okay. That's why it's important to validate, because even if for you it's not a big deal and for me it is, that's my reality. And if you're telling me that something's wrong with me, that I'm too sensitive, then yes, of course I'm going to internalize that shit, or I'm going to be like, that hurts because I'm really feeling this and you're totally disregarding what I'm telling you and what I'm feeling. So just validate yourselves and validate others.
Yeah. And then also, if you are going through a really hard time right now, like, yes, you may be feeling a certain thing, but it's not like permanent,
right?
Too. Like feelings and emotions aren't permanent. Like things change. So definitely, you know, validate your feelings, acknowledge them, but also try not to marinate too much on them, and just know that like whatever you're going through isn't permanent.
Yeah, and the importance of like processing and acknowledging your emotions is so that you don't develop these long-term negative feelings towards things, you know. So let's say like you're hurt because your partner cheated or left you or whatever. That's a big situation that you just went through, a big event that your emotions were maybe anger, sadness, hurt, pain, right? And then over time, if you're not really processing it or trying to move forward, or trying to in some way, I don't know, acknowledge what you're feeling, you're gonna possibly develop feelings of resentment towards either that person, towards yourself, or towards the concept of love, maybe. And that could you know, seep into future relationships. Basically, it's not permanent, and you don't have to let it be permanent.
Yes. I have like eyeliner on the bottom of my eyes.
Nice, Mish, nice.
I'm just like taking them off. I'm not crying.
It's okay if you are.
I know, but I'm not. I feel like I would acknowledge if I'm crying right now, but I'm not.
Okay.
Yo, and then also like sometimes if you want to have a good cry, just like do it.
Cry.
It'll make you feel better.
Sometimes I cry in the shower. Feels nice. It's like liberating, you know?
Yeah. Yo, one time I did cry in the rain.
Yo, I can picture that from a movie. That's like a movie scene. Oh my gosh. I love that. That's so cool.
And then there was a meme that I saw, like where they were like, when you cry on the subway, it just hits different. And I'm like, I've never cried on the subway. I don't think I ever would. Because like I just like would not, because in front of people, yeah. But I did cry in the rain once. That was a little bit dramatic. I thought I was in a music video, but I was like, let me just cry. And I felt better.
You know what I pictured you doing? Like crying and then screaming and then like pushing your hands down and looking up at the sky, and just like I just pictured this whole scene in my head.
Really? Why would I?
And then you like splash the water out of anger after you cried. It's this whole thing I just totally played in my head.
No, that's not what happened. What happened was like, I was walking like this and I was crying. And yeah, that was it. And I was like, this is all right. And then I felt better when I got home. And I was like, cool.
Yay.
Yeah.
It's good to
It's all
express
right.
and feel.
Express, yeah.
Yeah. Or punch a pillow. Or scream at a pillow.
Right.
Yeah. Journal.
Right. You
write
can
out
write
your
out your
feelings.
feelings or emotions. Yeah.
Listen to music.
Oh, I love listening to music and like singing and like singing really badly. That's
Do you
one of the ways
listen
to
to
get through my
sad
emotions.
songs when you're feeling sad?
Oh, hell yes. Who doesn't?
Or, well, I don't know. Sometimes I'll listen to,
I have
let me see.
I have my own playlist on Spotify that says sad. I think it's like sad music or something, or sad. Like, and I have
Yeah.
like sad songs.
You know what I used to do
Ready.
was I used to listen to happy songs when I was sad to help me feel happier. But I realized that's not validating what I'm feeling. Maybe it was validating what I was needing in the moment. Maybe I needed to pick me up, but it wasn't validating my sadness. So,
oh yes,
there's a distinction there.
I have a playlist for both because sometimes I'm just like, all right, I'm done being sad. I want to be happy.
Yeah.
And then I'm just like, okay, I already felt that. Now I'm good.
Yeah. That's cool. We have some tools in our toolkit.
Yeah, I wonder what y'all do to cope with your feelings and emotions. And I think, yeah, there's so much you can do. Just try to do it in a healthy way.
And what
you're
helps
not harming
you.
yourself and not harming other people.
Yeah, and do what helps you. What helps someone else might not help you, and vice versa. So just do what makes you feel good and you express what helps you process.
Yeah, who cares what other people think?
Yeah. That's irrelevant.
Yep.
Okay, for real now. That was it, y'all.
That was a good conversation. I'm gonna go cry now. I'm just kidding.
Michelle and I are gonna go cry, but we'll see you at the next one. So feel free to comment, like, subscribe, share, do all of that.
Do all of that.
This was fun. Rate us 5 stars.
Yep.
If you feel like we are deserving of the 5 stars. If not, please also give us 5 stars. No, I'm just kidding.
For real, just do it.
Be honest with your reviews.
No, just do 5.
Just do 5. Our next episode, we have something in store for y'all. So just stay tuned. And yeah, thank you for joining. And
what is it? I'm like, what is it? I don't even know.
A potential guest.
Oh, yes. A guest.
A potential guest. If it all works out, if all the pieces align and the stars align, we'll have a guest for y'all. So stay tuned for that, and we'll keep posting on Wednesdays. So stay on the lookout on Facebook. If you're on Facebook, on Instagram, YouTube, we're on all 3 of those platforms, and of course on all the podcast apps. Okay,
we appreciate you all.
We appreciate
Take care.
you.
Take care of yourselves. All right. That's it. That's all I got.
You're so like, it's so monotone. Like, all right, take care.
That's how I express my emotions.
It's great. I love it. I love it.
I think joy. Side note: happiness is one of the hardest ones for me to express, or like excitement. I don't know why.
You know what? We should dig into that. Not now. I know. But we're gonna have to dig into that
because I'm like, I'm actually excited, but this is how I sound.
Let's put a bookmark on that because I want to dig deep. I'm like, why happiness? Why is that so hard?
I don't know, but I smile. I laugh.
Yeah, that doesn't mean you're happy
funny.
though.
I'm fucking funny.
You are fucking funny.
All right, let's just cut it at that. I don't know.
Okay.
All right, I got some issues. I'm gonna go to therapy and then I'm gonna come back and we'll talk about it.
Oh my god, this is great. Okay, let's all go to therapy and we'll work through it together.
Yes.
Okay, y'all. Thank you for tuning in. We'll catch you at the next one. Bye.
Bye.